2 Donald Trump tweets caused the most historic, insane liquidation event in crypto that we have ever seen in the history of the market. Some people think there's a lot of bad news still to come. Others think this is a generational buy opportunity. And so in this video, I want to break down exactly what happened, why it happened, and what this means for us as investors going forward. I want to start with the macro. Now, it's not just crypto that crumbled today. In the after hours trading after Donald Trump's tweets, the S&P 500 fell off an absolute cliff down to 6550 from 6750. In number terms, you can see the sea of red right here, down $1.2 trillion in a single day. Now, down the risk curve is crypto. And of course, crypto and altcoins felt the blast way stronger than any other asset class. Coin Bureau says crypto liquidation soared to $9.4 billion in 24 hours, the largest single day event ever. Bigger than Luna, bigger than COVID, and bigger than the FTX crash. We just witnessed and probably felt history. In fact, it's all still being counted. But you can see the second largest liquidation event was $2.2 billion earlier this year, and then $1.2 billion back for the FTX event. And these occurred over 24 hours. This says 24 hours here, but it actually occurred basically over a 1 hour time frame. And other people like Ash Crypto are reporting that it could be upwards of $19 billion, which would almost be 10 times the biggest crash that we ever had. And this hurt altcoins. Virtual Bacon says even top 10 alts are down 50% in a single hourly candle. And if you were awake when this happened, I called my brother because I literally thought CoinMarketCap was broken. Tokens down 80, 70, 90%. Top tokens that we all know the name of. Not even FTX crash did we see the market wide flush like this. The last time I can remember is October 2017 when China banned ICOs. And let's have a look at some of these individual candles. If you told me this would happen yesterday, I would bet so much money that you would be wrong. You can see ETH diving from $4,400 all the way down to $3,500. These are 15-minute candles, guys. So this is just 1 hour, this massive dip. Pengu was one of the real ones getting hit, down from $2 billion on the day to almost a $1.25 billion valuation, losing $750 million in that project alone. Mix fell off an absolute cliff from $1 billion down to almost $400 million. And there were some alts, guys, because there is some foul play at hand, which I'll go through at the end of the video with you. But some alts actually hit $0 on an exchange, like this one, Atom or Cosmos, that went down to 0.001 on the wick of that candle. And so let's break down exactly what the hell happened and why. Of course, through the lens of this channel, we follow influencers and look at the influence they have on the market. And it's funny to think that the president of the United States can be considered an influencer, but he has the most influence on the macroeconomy and the altcoins and crypto and everything below that than anyone else on earth. So he was saying that there were some strange things happening with China this morning. He said they're becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world saying they want to impose export controls on each and every element of production to do with rare earths. Trump says that this would clog the markets. Now, if we're in risk assets, which we are in altcoins and crypto, we do not want the markets being clogged. We want as much liquidity flowing as possible. And Trump threatened a retaliation, saying the US has a monopoly positions as well as China does, and much further reaching than China's. I've just chosen not to use them, he said. There was never a reason for me to do so until now, saying that he plans to retaliate on China, which the market does not like. He even said, which is important here, the real surprise not only to me, but to all the leaders of the free world, he was planning to meet President Xi in 2 weeks at APEC in South Korea. And here's a very important sentence. But now there seems to be no reason to do so, is the operative line. Now, this caused quite the sell-off. Again, I can actually show you ahead of time. This was the first sell-off here. President Trump posts a statement on a massive China tariff increase and cancels the meeting with Xi. This is where a lot of fear came from, that there was not even going to be negotiations or talks. Trump then followed up, saying it has just been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade, sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating that they were going to effectively, November 1st, 2025, another important date we'll get back to, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. Based on the fact that China has taken this unprecedented position and speaking only for the USA and not other nations who are similarly threatened, starting November 1st, the retaliation from Trump right here on the same date, or sooner, depending on if any further actions or changes taken by China. He's just strong-arming China to get rid of these trade restrictions. The United States of America will impose a 100% tariff on China. Now, this will absolutely clog the economy and hurt risk assets, as we saw the response to this tweet, and I'm going to break down exactly why that happens in just a second. Also on November 1st, we'll impose export controls on any and all critical software, making sure that China can't retaliate by not allowing the US to get any critical software. Now, from this, the S&P wiped out $700 billion of market value. And to go back to our timeline, this was the further crash. The S&P raises another 1.2 trillion in 40 minutes upon the news of those 100% tariffs going in on November 1st. So to understand why this had a massive effect on crypto, you need to understand the risk curve. These are all the assets in the world. I mean, I've drawn this on the end because it doesn't normally account for the riskier assets, the newer class of assets that we like to invest in crypto, because they are traditionally the riskiest, which means they're the highest risk, highest reward. And on the other end of the risk curve, you've got something like cash equivalent, bonds, real estate. When something like 100% tariffs get threatened, all the money flows up the risk curves to the safest assets. And all the money that was down here and all the liquidity and market value that was down here gets evaporated. And so you can see anytime we're on a risk on period, which is where interest rates get cut and liquidity flows all around the world happily without crazy amounts of tariffs, you can see that we get massive gains, especially down the risk curve in things like altcoins and microcap cryptos. When QT starts and tightening comes in, this is when these risk assets fall like we saw them fall off a cliff today. Now, in the traditional 4-year cycle, weirdly, we're actually in the most bullish part right now. And this is why you see a lot of people and a lot of macro analysts like Raoul Pal desperately trying to move money out of the bank and into crypto to pick up those new lows that occurred today when these markets absolutely crashed. He says it was near impossible to get in any reasonable time. Anyway, it's still a gift to have this massive pullback. I'm going to break down why he says that in a second. In fact, Virtual Bacon follows up with, when everyone's panicking, it's usually your best entry, because most of the big brains that I follow are buying the dip. Here's Luke Belmar saying, buy the dip with all of your cash. It is easy money. And in fact, Murad, who are a big believer in here at the channel, he says it's extremely bullish. He says, we just flushed out all the weak hands and all the leverage. In fact, have a look at this person who sold millions of dollars of the SPX 6900 token on the dip. Murad is saying that people who do not believe that we are going to hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap for the top meme coins, or even just billions for the altcoins that people normally trade, those 10, 100x's at this point of the cycle, he believes you could not do that until the leverage was flushed out, because now when the market runs, you don't have people making tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of the crypto based on their longs and selling and taking that money out of the market. The money now stays in the market, and Murad says the road to new all-time highs and insane parabolas begins now. Ash Crypto, he says this is a crypto reset. Literally all longs are liquidated. This is the biggest proof that stage is being set for a massive parabolic pump. Again, to understand why that means it's going to be a parabolic pump, it means that since the leverage has been wiped out, now when we run, there is less people making crazy amounts of money and taking crazy amounts of money out of the market, therefore dropping those tokens down. And Jesse Eckel actually called this. I've been following him a little bit more closely recently as he's increased the quality of his content. And he literally said, the first 2 weeks of October are bearish and any big headline event could collapse the market. It's exactly what happened, and he absolutely nailed it. He believes the second half of October is going to be extremely bullish all the way into the end of Q1 2026. And Anthony Pompliano says, if Bitcoin can fall $15,000 per coin in minutes, I think it actually fell 17.5 in the end, does that mean the future could also go up 15,000 per coin in minutes? Study reflexivity. Now, there's obviously a lot of risk still in the market, especially since China and the US have not breached an agreement. But every tariff deal so far, every tariff threat so far has been a threat that has not been put into place with Trump. And the market has initially dumped, not quite to the degree that we saw, but it has dropped maybe 20, 30% and then gone skyrocketing as soon as there is even a sniff that there is going to be an agreement reached. Connor, however, says he counted over 1,000 traders that are down 6 figures today on Hyperliquid and 206 traders that are down $1 million today. Just today, guys. 358 of those accounts lost everything and have $0 in balance. This is honestly tough and really sad, but this is what's happening to people who are using high amounts of leverage, including one person who lost all $19 million of their account. And you can see some massively insane losses right here just today. Alex Becker says, thank you. Those prices were delicious. Onward to resume the uptrend to $8,000 ETH. And there's a lot of people who are thinking that there is some suspicious things going on because we have had threats with tariffs with China for a long time. And even when the market dipped 70, 80%, people like Binance and Coinbase were not allowing their users to buy, and therefore the bounce wasn't as strong as it could have been. Wizard of Soho says, trying to buy the dip, nothing even working, all exchanges are currently frozen. Crypto John says Coinbase is not letting users buy, it's sounding like Robinhood all over again. And if that wasn't sus enough, have a look at this. There's a massive Bitcoin whale, a single trader who opened a $420 million short on Bitcoin through Hyperliquid. He deposited 80 million USDC and used over 5x leverage to bet against Bitcoin. And people are speculating that it has to be a guy related to Trump's family. He shorted $1 billion of Bitcoin before the crash and came out. The Bitcoin whale closed 90% of his Bitcoin short and fully closed his ETH short, making around $200 million of profit in just one day on Hyperliquid. The crazy part is that he shorted 9 figures worth of Bitcoin and ETH minutes before the cascade happened. In fact, there's either another account or it could be the same person opening a Bitcoin short 30 minutes before the tariff announcement and closed with $90 million of profit, and it is a brand new account on Hyperliquid. And so obviously we need to be extremely careful because there's a lot of market manipulation and craziness happening out there. But the way I'm personally playing it is assuming that we're going to have some chop, just like we're always being assuming. We would not probably class that as chop in the future. That seemed like a rougher, absolute drop off a cliff. But you want to see the tokens that are responding well. Now, a lot of things are down 40, 50%. Now, I was on Crypto Bubbles this morning, and they were down 70% because you can see there are tokens that dropped off a cliff, $235 down to $160, and then has bounced back to where they were. Study the tokens that are bouncing back the hardest. They have the strongest believers, and when the market turns bullish, of course, they are probably going to be outperforming the tokens that aren't bouncing back yet. If you want to stay informed in this crypto market, hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.